And a very good evening to everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to what promises to be yet another wonderful night of knowledge, information, and comradeship. So how wonderful. I've got lots of people in the room tonight. This is wonderful. We have with us this evening the lovely Hilary Norton. And Hilary organises events for the GreenSpirit and runs a local GreenSpirit group in East London. Hilary, good evening. How are you?
Hi, fine, thank you. Lovely to be here.
Lovely to see you. Thank you so much. Then we have Ian Mowll, beg your pardon, Ian. And he is the coordinator of GreenSpirit, and he's over 15 years of experience in working in the eco-spiritual world. Good evening to you too, Ian.
Good evening to you, Laurie, and thank you very much for inviting me and a chance to share green spirituality.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And last but by no means least, Steve Wollaston. And Steve is an interfaith minister, and he's part of GreenSpirit's publication team and author of many books, and including some quite good ties and fond memories of that wonderful medium, Glyn Edwards. So, Steve, good evening to you too, sir.
Good evening. Honoured to be here, Larry. Please.
No, it's wonderful to see you. And so wonderful people are joining us. Hello, lovely Jan from down in the West Country. Mary, hope you're better now. Janet, Mary again, hi. So, yeah, it's going to be an absolutely wonderful evening. I will very shortly hand over to each of our presenters to allow them to take their segment of this evening. And that's about it. I need to stop talking. As I said earlier, I can't stop talking. Ian, sir, I believe you'll be going first. Is that correct?
That's right. So just when you're ready, if you can share my screen. And
I can indeed. So let me work my wonderful magic.
Okay. So we're live, yeah?
You are live and the screen is all yours, sir. So over to you.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, everyone. And welcome to this presentation of what is green spirituality. I'll give this part of the talk an overview. Hilary will talk about the practical side of what we do, and Steve will talk about his take on green spirituality and connections with Glyn Edwards and other things. So what is green spirituality? I'm just going to start with a short invocation just to get us into that green spiritual space. Let the rain come and wash away the ancient grudges, the bitter hatreds, held and nurtured over generations. Let the rain wash away the memory of the hurt, the neglect. Then let the sun come out and fill the sky with rainbows. Let the warmth of the sun heal us wherever we are broken. Let it burn away the fog so that we can see each other clearly, so that we can see beyond labels, beyond accents, gender, or skin colour. Let the warmth and brightness of the sun melt our selfishness so that we can share the joys and feel the sorrows of our neighbours. And let the light of the sun be so strong that we will see all people as our neighbours. Let the earth, nourished by rain, bring forth flowers to surround us with beauty. And let the mountains teach our hearts to reach upward and be inspired. And so be it. So, welcome. That short invocation, I hope, gets us into this green spiritual space of connecting with nature and seeing how it can teach and renew our spirit. And that's a prayer for the world. The first thing to say about green spirituality is that there's no guru, no organisation, no teacher, no writing that defines what it is. Green spirituality is our own personal response to nature and our spiritual journey. So what I'm presenting is my version or my response, which is equally as valid as anyone here and any person. We're all here to share our journeys, support each other on this spiritual path. No one is in a sense ahead of the other. So I want to start off very briefly by saying, what do we mean by spirituality? Because that can mean different things to different people. And very simply, I'm going to suggest that there are two parts of spirituality. There's the unknown or mystery, that which is beyond. that which we can only perhaps sometimes see dimly or sense or can't quite grasp. And so all spiritual traditions and people use different either poems or metaphors or connections in their own way to try and reach out and connect to that mystery. All religions and spiritual traditions have that way of reaching out. But with equal measure, spirituality is about the physical world. It is about the planet. It's about our bodies. It's about trees and wind and rain and rivers. It's everything we can see and touch around us. And I'm going to suggest that good spirituality is when we connect the two in good connection. So we go out into the world of mystery and get imaginations or inspirations or connections, hopefully with compassion and truth and love. And we come back into the physical world and ground those in our day-to-day journey. So if we spend too much time in the world of mystery, we can become ungrounded. And if we spend too much time in the physical world, we can lack inspiration and meaning. But when we connect the two, when we're journeying between the two and connecting them, our journey, spiritual journey, can be full of fulfillment and meaning and purpose and connection and love and compassion. So that's what I suggest we're going to try and do today in the explanation of green spirituality. So what is green spirituality? I'm going to suggest at its very basic, a phrase I would use is, we all belong to the living earth. That's simple. We all belong, whoever we are, because we're all part of the earth, whether we are Buddhist or Baptist or Jew or Christian or atheist or spiritualist or agnostic or whoever we are, whether white or brown or whatever country we come from, we all belong. We are all part of this amazing planet Earth and this evolutionary journey. Life actually started on the Earth about 4 billion years ago and divided and multiplied and spread out. And all life comes from one single cell 4 billion years ago. So it is actually true that we are related to the trees and the flowers and the bees and each other. We are all part of this one web of life. And so that is our connection. It's easy to think of ourselves as separate, but I suggest we are in many ways connected with the web of life and each other, all sharing this amazing evolutionary journey of this earth. And we're here to support and encourage each other on that journey. So how can we do that? Well, it's all very easy to get very grounded, but for me, there are kind of stars in the sky that guide me. And here are 4 stars as examples. There are many others, but we can be guided, for instance, by the star of compassion. That's a very important one for me. The star of truth, the star of wisdom, the star of the cosmic Christ. I'll be coming on to that later. And these all help to guide us. We never reach them, but they help to guide us so that our journey on the earth is meaningful and fulfilling and connecting. Okay, so let's get a little bit more sort of connected with the earth. How can we connect with it? Well, in the same way, for instance, we might have spirit guides to help us on our spiritual journey, and they can communicate with us and we can communicate with them. We can also perhaps listen to the earth. The earth has its energy, its, if you like, even spirit, or its, and energy. And it can speak to us through people. So, for instance, people from the past. We have indigenous traditions that can speak on the earth's behalf. This is the goddess Bridget from the Irish tradition. And later on, the Catholic tradition took her on as St. Bridget, the goddess of fire, the hearth, spring, fertility, amongst other things. And so indigenous wisdom, which sees the spirit in all things, can speak to us and on behalf of the earth's voice coming through. We could also listen to Hildegard of Bingen, for instance, the Irish Catholic saint who lived in Germany in the Middle Ages. She spoke on behalf of the earth and wrote many songs, amongst other things, speaking of our connection with the earth. And of course, Francis of Assisi spoke on behalf of the earth and his wonder and awe of all living beings. I'm just going to read a short adapted part of his poem Canticle of the Sun, which is one of many poems and readings that he's written. All praise be yours through all that you have made, and first my brother sun, who brings the day and light. How beautiful is he, how radiant in all his splendor. All praise be yours through sister moon and stars. In the heavens you have made them bright and precious and fair. All praise be yours through brothers wind and air, and fair and stormy, all the weather's moods, by which you cherish all that you have made. And the poem goes on to describe other things in nature which he finds awesome and amazing and wonderful, and shows the rich beauty and diversity of our earth. So the earth speaks through these people from the past, but there are also people from the present who can speak on the earth's behalf, or if you like, giving that earth energy we can hear. We have, for instance, and these are just examples, there are many more, Rachel Carson, who wrote the book Silent Spring in the 1960s in the US, talking about the fertilizers and pesticides that killed off the insects and bird life and how everything became silent, and the degradation and to the environment and how agriculture needed to change. Some say she was the beginning of the modern environmental movement. We could also listen to David Attenborough. He channels that earth energy in his passion and his love for all the rich diversity of animals and plants and fish and so on. A beautiful articulator of the earth's wisdom and energy. And of course, Greta Thunberg, the Swedish girl who articulates so clearly the our need to respond to climate change and species destruction. And she's been such a beautiful voice on behalf of the earth. And so these are many more. It's like the earth's energy speaking to us, which we can listen to and feel inspired to take care of the planet and make it sustainable and beautiful and a wonderful place to live. The other voice or energy I want to just briefly talk about is the cosmic Christ, because, for instance, I have a Christian background. I've broadened now into my version of green spirituality. But there is this book, for instance, The Coming of the Cosmic Christ by Matthew Fox. And this is the Christ in all things, the Christ energy in the tree, in the bird, in the flower, in each of us, in the planet Earth, and in all life forms. Now, again, it's just a personal response, but my view of this or experience of this cosmic Christ is like a golden white ball of energy. And when I'm in that presence, there's love and compassion and acceptance. And I feel no need to strive or achieve or do anything. I am accepted. And I see this Christ energy in all things. And for me, that's in the earth. That's part of the energy of the earth. That's just my pathway, if you like, to try and reach that mystery of this earth energy. So these metaphors or ideas or inspirations may be helpful to you, but you may have others, of course, that helps you to connect with the earth and feel its energy from that. So I'm going to give 3 just examples of my sort of connection to earth spirituality. And the first one is connection to nature. When I go into this forest, for instance, there's something that's growing. People talk about forest bathing, and it makes perfect sense to me. When I go into this beautiful forest, I can feel relaxed and my energy can flow more easily, stresses drain away, and I can feel just part of this beautiful ecosystem. Of course, for thousands of years, we as humans lived in forests and out in nature, not in houses and so on, so that we would, that's probably evolutionary what we were normally connected with. So it's bringing back that part of us, which we probably need to express. But more than this, we could see that modern agriculture is producing these monocultures, let's say vast fields of wheat or barley or whatever, and all of the use of pesticides and insecticides to make that happen. And we need new ways of agriculture, new ways of connecting with nature. And so there's a chap called Bill Mollison in the 1970s in Australia who saw all this degradation of the environment. And he wondered what he could do about it. And so he went out and observed in nature, in forests and other things, and he saw that nature was sustainable. It sustained its own energy. And in each ecosystem, in the forest, for instance, the trees would have its place, its function, its part. The birds would have their part in the ecosystem. The ferns and the grasses would have their part. And they would each contribute to make this a sustainable ecosystem. And so he then realized that with the idea of permaculture, which he and others then developed, to work with nature, not to try and control and dominate it, to work alongside plants, to companion a plant with plants that support each other, or work with a diversity of plants so that the ecosystems are sustainable. And actually, when you do that, you can actually produce more food, and it's more healthy, and it's more tasty, and it has to travel less far and so on. It's just like win, 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 win. So working with nature, for example, with things like permaculture, is the way that we can become more healthy and actually increase the amount of food that's produced. Another wonderful way that we connect with, I connect with nature, is healing. I live in this house with this computer screen and all the modern gadgets, but of course for thousands of years we were out in nature, and for me nature can be healing on so many levels. There's this naturalness obviously about it. When I was in our GreenSpirit group, we've been many years to a place in North Wales called Caernarfon, beautiful place with eco structures and a stream and an oak forest and a lake and so on. And when I was there one day, I walked away from the group and I walked into the oak forest with the ferns on the ground, and I lay down in the ferns. And just for a moment, I kind of let go of all my thoughts and attachments and desires and wishes. And it was like I kind of melted into the bracken, into the forest. And for a time, I felt my soul, my spirit, part of this beautiful oak forest. And I felt relaxed, no need to do anything. My sense of being was just there, it was held. And I was this beautifully connected with this organic system. I felt accepted. I felt I belonged. And then after that experience, I got up and went back to the group and could feel that sense of peace and belonging, which helped me with my journey with others. And my third one is belonging. Green spirituality gives me this sense of feeling at home, which is so beautiful and so important. Here's this Celtic roundhouse we go to, or been to many years, and in the evenings we'll sit around this campfire, and everyone's always welcome because everyone is part of the earth. So whoever you are always welcome. And we'll sing songs and chant and tell jokes and dance and share stories and so on. And that gives me and others a great sense of feeling at home and belonging. But just before we get too much of a sense of what's in it for me, which is important, green spirituality, which all spiritual traditions show, is about contribution as well, unconditional love, altruism. What can I do for other people and the planet? And green spirituality for me gives that beautiful way of hopefully contributing, I hope in some way skillfully, to the planet, because I can understand about sustainability, I can understand about the need to be in relationship with the earth and support the planet and all living beings, and of course that includes us humans as well. Social justice is just as important. So I have an inspiration and a pathway to contribute to make the world, I hope, a better place. So let me end where I started, and that's to say that for me green spirituality is at its essence that we all belong to this beautiful living earth. And that, I suggest, is not just a nice idea, because some of the challenges we face, like climate change and species destruction, have to be addressed by all countries. No one country can go it alone. As humanity, we have to come together across the globe. We all have to realize that we all belong to the earth, and this idea, this phrase, I hope, can be a part of the solution, an inspiration for us to come together. So whether we are Buddhist or Baptist or Jew or spiritualist or atheist or agnostic, whether we are white or brown or black or whatever color we are, whoever we are, I feel green spirituality can inspire us to come together to make the world ever more beautiful, compassionate, inspirational, dynamic, exciting, creative, wonderful, and loving place to be. And let me just end there with an Apache blessing. This comes from the Native American tradition. May the sun bring you new energy by day. May the moon softly restore you by night. May the rain wash away your worries. May the breeze blow new strength into your being. May you walk gently through the world and know its beauty all the days of your life. Thank you.
Ian, absolutely lovely. Thank you so much. Quite a lot there. I was sat there going, so absolutely wonderful. I believe next we are going to Hilary. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep.
Absolutely wonderful. Good evening to you, Hilary. And
Hello.
I hand over to you now for your segment of the evening. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you. So, GreenSpirit is a national organisation, and we've got members all over the UK. but we do have local groups as well. There aren't ever such a lot of local groups, but it would be great to hear of more forming, but there are a few. Ours is one of several. Most of the groups celebrate the turning of this lovely earth through the seasons. Summer and winter solstices and equinoxes in the spring and the autumn. And then we often celebrate the Celtic festivals, like Imbolc in February, at the beginning of the spring, the harvest in the middle of the summer and the autumn, and Samhain, we celebrate the ancestors at Samhain. Some groups are a little bit different. Some groups meet to watch a video or to read a book and discuss it. And other groups have a slightly different flavour, something like Celtic spirituality or shamanistic practices, Unitarian and pagan. But they've all got an individual and unique flavour. And here in this slide, you can see people from in the top left, we were doing flower arranging for the spring equinox on this particular occasion, but we were doing it in a meditative way without speaking. And it was a very nice way to have a devotional time together. As you can see, there are winter solstice celebrations, storytelling, and Samhain celebrations. So some of the rituals that we might do would be something like lighting candles to honour somebody in prayer, or tying ribbons onto a branch or a tree as we make intentions. And we do tend to write our own rituals. We usually honour the directions in our rituals, and I'm just going to read a couple of items from from the ritual that we'll be doing in a few weeks' time for Samhain. We honouring the directions means that we are valuing the elements and the other than human creatures that are in the different directions. So, for instance, if we're facing the north, we would give thanks for the earth, the ground of our being. Dormancy sets in as root energy stirs and seeds in the dark earth wait. We thank the earth for our food, medicines, and shelter at winter's onset. May we understand the need for transformation. And if we're facing the east, we would give thanks for the air, the breath that gives us life. A storm broods, winter blows in on an east wind, and autumn leaves return earthwards. It's time to gather indoors for music and storytelling. May we fly and soar with spirit. And then we'd face south to honour fire, west to honour water, and the centre to honour spirit. And of course, at Samhain, we will be asking teachers and spirits of our ancestors to be with us and to guide us, to watch over us and protect us. We'll probably do a little bit of divination as well. And so that's Samhain. We blend devotional activities with some creative ones as well, sometimes some artwork or some craft. And we often get lots of people for the solstices, and Samhain is popular as well, and the equinoxes. And we have a bonfire as often as we can in the garden. I'm in East London, which is the city, so we haven't got lovely wild areas to go to, but we have got the parks and we've got the garden with a fire, so that's really nice. In East London, we've actually got a silver tent group as well, which is for women over 50. and it's a bit like a red tent group. You've probably heard of those. And we meet to consider our spiritual journey and to consider how we can support the younger people in our lives on their spiritual journeys. Other things that we do is join in with peace and prayer initiatives. So, for instance, whenever there's a moment of mass mindfulness or International Peace Day, we'll join in with that. And some of us meet regularly for meditation. If we're doing craft work, we might make something like prayer sticks as part of our devotional activity, or a God's eye, or something like blend some incense with different fragrances from that part, that particular season. We always have a section where people can bring their own contribution to a ritual. So that's lovely, because often we have poetry or prose, but also somebody might bring a recipe, or somebody might bring some information about a particular herb that is appropriate for that time of year. Somebody else might sing us a song, and we might do drumming and things like that as well. Many of us are involved in speaking up for the planet in one way or another. Speaking up for the planet, for ourselves and all of our neighbours, human and non-human. So some folks are part of transition towns in various parts of the country. Some people are part of Extinction Rebellion. And obviously, most of us go to climate change marches and write letters and postcards and things like that about climate change. So we'll do as much as we can. And being spiritual activists for us means showing the way, really, because our leaders aren't very good at knowing what direction we should be going in with regards to climate change. So we really need to be the way showers. So we try and live as ethically and as simply as we can in our buying and our consumption. Some of us go to the national events as well. So as GreenSpirit's a national movement, and we have events. We have at least 3 events a year when we don't have COVID. And we usually have a walking break in the spring, which is a retreat. It's like a pilgrimage, and we're away for 3 or 4 days, and we walk on the earth. And sometimes we've got a theme. There have been times when we've walked with St. Francis. Another time we've walked and had somebody tell us about the unfolding universe from the Big Bang to now. And we've walked 13.8 kilometers and had the story told to us as we're walking. But we always walk with reverence, and we share devotional readings and things when we stop, which is lovely. And then as Ian has mentioned, we have a wild week. We call it the Wild Week. It's a sort of retreat in Snowdonia in the summer. And the place itself is so incredibly elemental. There's a lake at the bottom of the hill, and there's a tumbling stream, and we sometimes have sunshine, and we always have rain, and there's a hot tub, and it's wonderfully elemental. And so we can commune with the elements and with each other. We live in community for the week. So that's a very rich time. And there's quite often a theme for that. So once we had a Council of All Beings theme. Another time we had an Honouring the Feminine theme, the Feminine Goddess. So different themes. And our annual gathering is a conference in the autumn, which we usually invite a speaker, and whatever the theme is, we try and fit in devotional activities that suit that, and creative activities that suit the theme. So, for instance, we've had a theme of permaculture. We've had a theme of spiritual activism. We've had the theme of celebrating in music. And my mind's gone blank. All sorts of lovely themes, but we always do some artwork that's related to that. So that on the top left there is a sort of mandala picture that we did.
You seem...
One of
Sorry,
You
Hilary, yes, it's all right, my darling, you'd frozen there, but just as I came in, you unfroze, so I shall take myself out again.
Okay. So just, you know, at the moment, we are confined to quarters. We haven't had any of our meetings this year. We are planning some for next year, some actually meeting up with people meetings, but that's all in the balance. Meanwhile, Zoom has been great because I suddenly realized in the spring that we could probably do a spring equinox celebration over Zoom, as long as people bring things to share. And it worked brilliantly. So since then, we've had every one of our celebrations we've been doing on Zoom, and a few other meetings as well. So we've had some meetings about green spirituality, Ian's topic. We've had a series of meetings called Wisdom Keepers about various topics like balancing masculine and feminine within ourselves, and reimagining the future, and re-enchanting the world, and spiritual practice, and so on. We've had talks about green health, and we've had some active hope sessions based on the work of Joanna Macy. Yeah, so that's it's been great actually since Zoom, and I think we'll probably into the new year do, if we can meet physically, that will be wonderful, but I think we'll carry on doing Zoom meetings. But as you can see, it's really great. I found this as my spiritual home, and it would be lovely to have visitors come and join us. So that's me done, Laurie.
Yes, all right, Ian, thank you. Absolutely wonderful. Apologies there, Hilary. I'd left myself on mute because I had a coughing fit. Anyway, thank you so much for your presentation. Very interesting. I do love the slide that's currently on show here because my eagle eye has spotted the lovely Ashley Oliver.
Yeah.
And there's also a gentleman who's asked a question, which we'll come to later, Richard Adams, and looking at his profile picture, I believe he was one of the standard bearers in one of your marches.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Good on you for getting out there. Good on you. Do you know what? I applaud everybody that stands up for what they believe is right and not just sit there and go. So, yeah, good on you. Thank you. It takes no genius to work out that wonderful Stephen will be our next speaker. So, Stephen, we shall come over to you now. Thank you again, Hilary. I shall just put you into the green room.
That's a pleasure.
How apt. Stephen, good evening, sir.
Hi.
I shall hand over to you. And as you are the bad boy of the group tonight and you don't have a PowerPoint presentation, tut.
Exactly. But we should mention that I've left you some quotes by Glyn, which can be shared later.
Indeed.
So, yes.
Stephen has put some quotes together. The reason behind them will become very clear during his presentation. Now, I will attach these in a PDF form to the library version of tonight's broadcast. I can't do it while we're live, but once we have finished and the library edition of tonight's broadcast is there, also the PDF version of what Ian has gifted to us tonight. So Ian, sir, without further ado, hand over to you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Yes, to build perhaps a little bit on what Ian and Hilary have also said, for a lot of us, it seems in GreenSpirit, it's been a homecoming for a lot of us. We've all looked at various traditions and somehow felt something lacking, and yet the community in GreenSpirit seems to have hit the spot for us. Might not be for everybody, but that's the way of spirituality anyway. And for me, I came to it from different background, as we all do. I think Hilary or Ian mentioned GreenSpirit has a council which meets up regularly, which is made up of volunteers, and everybody sees that as part of their service towards that community because of their passions about green wisdom in whatever way that they personally interpret it. For me, I come with a background as a writer, editor, and a designer, and I'm very happy to offer my skills to help promote GreenSpirit in whatever way I can through those sorts of abilities. And for me, I also see that as part of my spiritual practice, as well as I also, we talked about activism, but also activism is about, doing those kinds of things as well. I always think of the feminist movement, pamphleteering, and writing articles was a part of that activism, raising awareness of women's status, just as much as GreenSpirit is about raising awareness of green issues. And so we promote books which are done except for one which was taken on by a publisher. But most of our publications and things we do are there's ebook versions which are free for members of GreenSpirit, or they're all done at cost price if you're not. So for very little sort of layouts, there's a whole series of books on green spirituality that has been done, not just by me, but by a whole team of working together and producing some good material, which we're all very proud of course, and that's always ongoing. Obviously, some may be aware, but I also have strong associations with who was for 26 years a best friend of mine, which was Glyn Edwards, who was a very famous spiritualist medium. So it seemed like, as we were talking about green spirituality, and here we are at Paul Spiritualist Church, so I thought I'd mention just a bit about him as well. Once again, rather like Paul Church, he was very progressive. If you don't know of him, he was over 40 years, worked publicly as a medium throughout the world. He run many successful courses and was a popular tutor at the Upper Findlay College. So with Glyn, in a way, I always noticed he had a strong nature-based spirituality as well. He always liked places like the Lake District in Cumbria, or sort of Kent and Devon in the south of England. He found these sorts of places replenished him in a way, and he often had teachings which would be about recognizing our interconnectedness, which also Ian spoke about. It wasn't about, just the spirit world is just human-centered. It is in everything. So Christians, rather like Ian mentioned, is to do with cosmic Christ. With Ian, he would talk about the spirit in all. We are not separate, and the spirit world isn't somewhere else. It's here now, communicating with us, and it has always been there. So I noticed Paul Church has its sort of 8 principles up, and one of those being the continuous existence of the soul. Well, also that continuous existence is to do with creativity, being there from the Big Bang leading up to now, is still happening and still going on into the future. And this to Glyn was very much a part of his life. He often talked about creativity, how that's interrelated with nature as a creative force, He even talked about more the divine feminine towards the end of his life. He changed some of his teachings, like any good teacher who's personally sort of progressing all the time. He would reassess things and be more relevant to what teachings were about today. So to give an example, I brought some things along just to show how, you know, if you're a spiritualist and wondering, oh, this green stuff all sounds a bit crazy to me, I'm not sure. You know, there was Glyn, and he had no problem integrating that and seeing that as part of his spirituality. In fact, he was even a member of GreenSpirit for the last year of his earth life. So this is a passage from a very sort of popular book of his, which I compiled, put together for him, called The Potential of Mediumship. Like most people, I have often found myself attracted to the natural world and its beauty. But as I pursued the development of my mediumship, I began to notice differences in the way a tree, bush, or flower in the countryside or a town park affected me to such a degree that when I looked at it and reflected upon it, I found myself becoming still and aware of states of being that are hard to express in words. Through this stillness and awareness, I noticed my outer perceptions changed. I would become completely enraptured by what I was contemplating. Somehow I knew that here, within a living expression of nature, was God's presence. I don't know how I knew this, but I felt as though I had always known it somehow. As I developed my mediumship and travelled more extensively in the UK and abroad, I began to notice how nature affected me in different ways and started to realise its importance. I began to appreciate the sacredness of all life much more than before, and found this sacred presence in all things and species. This also included a deeper appreciation of things our human species has created, because of the creative mind that had produced them. In the course of my development, I have come to realize how our individual spirit, nature, the spirit world, and God are continuously creating, and how by participating with this activity, we become co-creators with the creative powers of all life. And that particularly, that idea of co-creativity is very strong in GreenSpirit as well. You know, it's not just, you know, we're doing something separate. We're actually taking part of a much more like a cosmic creativity, which has brought us here. You know, Mother Earth herself has given us birth. We owe her very existence to the Earth, and obviously Earth has been birthed by the cosmos itself, and this is continuing to today. And it was interesting. He also to share one fond memory of Glyn. He always made me smile when you know, we would visit people's houses and they had pets, and he would always kind of just light up enthusiastically the minute he saw a cat or a dog. I would talk to them, you know, quite enthusiastically and happily. It always kind of seemed to brighten him in some way. And pets just naturally, obviously, loved him for that, because they like being made a fuss of course. So there's some things, as I say, I thought I would mention them because of the connections Glyn had. So there's a difference, as I say, between, he did start to see more of God as the divine feminine, talked more about the creative energy of the feminine and its compassionate nature. The idea of rather like, you know, to see it in Christian terms, there's the cosmic Christ. Glyn was, he did read a lot of the Christian mystics. He was a Benedictine monk himself, but he also was very drawn to a lot of Buddhist and yogic wisdom. Particularly in yoga, there's the idea of the Atman, which is present in all. It's the divine spark within everybody. Interestingly, what's known as the pranam, which you see many Hindus do, which he always used to talk about when I first met him, and thought was a wonderful way to greet people, because it's recognizing the God that is within you. I bow to the spirit that is within you. So that's connecting up with this cosmic Christ, this God in all. And if there is this understanding, it's no longer this old sort of ridiculous sort of later horrible doctrine which crept into kind of some forms, not all, luckily, forms of Christianity about original sin. It's about original goodness. And there's a lot of Christians within GreenSpirit who very much aware of this difference and have traced back through people like St. Francis, Hildegard of Bingham, the kind of more nature greener mystics that there have been who are more about the positive divine in all. This idea of original goodness. Matthew Fox, a writer which has influenced, contemporary writer who has influenced a lot of thinking in GreenSpirit, also wrote a very popular book back in I think it was the late 80s, called Original Blessing, which had a huge impact on a lot of Christians' lives in America and in England at St. James's Piccadilly and so on, from which GreenSpirit actually grew, interestingly enough. Glyn had all Matthew Fox's books. He was an avid reader, was always interested in what people had to say, which was relevant now, what people, any progressive thinkers, he wanted to know about them, and he was passionate. And in some ways, I used to hear people say, oh, if only he would just be happy with the knowledge he has. And you think, well, no, what makes Glyn so dynamic and so unique is the fact that he's going beyond set perimeters. He's looking at an interconnectedness. It's not about, oh, I'm a spiritualist and you're something else, and never the two of us should meet. That wasn't his thinking at all. If people sort of said to him, oh, I'm just interested in pure spiritualism, he would challenge them and say, well, I don't know what that actually means. What is pure spiritualism? And when you think about it, he was right. Spiritualism, if you think about it, if you take it deep enough, you're back to seeing that the spirit is with us all the time. It's connected with everybody, connected with everyone, in everything, in our daily interactions with others and so on. He was quite a profound teacher for many people. I'm not just saying this because I knew him as a good friend and went on holidays with him every year. What more can I say? I think I covered it really. Also, I mentioned Glyn about Buddhism as well. He took a deep interest in particular as well, you've got the idea of a Buddha nature, which is within everything and everybody as well. So that's another connection which we find. I was listening to Simon James talking to Laurie on one of your chats, and I noticed Laurie saying mediumship is one aspect of our wonderful spiritualism family. And I find that very encouraging because it makes that fits with Glyn, because it's just, yes, there's mediumship, but there's also this vastness of spirituality which we should also be considering. Otherwise it's an us and them situation. I've got it right, you've got it wrong, and that's not, as we know, anybody who's looked at spirituality or taken a much more mature approach, as a lot of us GreenSpirit people have done. As I say, we've kind of been around the block a bit and got fed up with dogmas and so on, and we just, and our committee is made up of people from vast areas of different backgrounds. We have, Druids and, spiritualists, and we even have a Catholic nun who was on committee with us on the publications team for a long time, and there's me with more of a yogic kind of background and so on. So, and I find that very refreshing. I find that encouraging. It was, strangely enough, because of prejudice some have against mediums and spiritualism, it was one of the first things I asked when I approached GreenSpirit. What are your views about spiritualists? Because I wanted to know, because I know if they really are all encompassing, it shouldn't be an issue. And it's all, well, if they got a earth-based spirituality kind of perspective, we're only welcome to meet them, bring them along, and he did once go along to one or two of the events that Hilary did, and there was a Green Spirit kind of ceremony at St. James's as well, which he loved, so there you go. That's me, and work with Glyn. Some quotes I've left are from this book with Laurie to share, because I put the book together for the 70th, what would have been his 70th Earth year. And there's lots, as you notice, I've found lots of Earth-centered quotes by Glyn, which I just kind of picked out. There's more than I even found to share. But, so I said to Laurie, well, they're just some of the things you've said. And you're quite welcome to read them and be inspired by them, hopefully. So that's me. Thank you for having me, and I hope you've enjoyed the talk.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Stephen. And I'll just bring back our other two guests. And I'll put the lady first. There we go. That's fine. I've done my gentlemanly thing for the day. There we go. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, all three of you. Thoroughly engrossed. A lot of comments coming in. Somebody is even private messaging me going, yay, about things. So how nice is that? Ian, sir, absolutely beautiful. Thank you very much. I neglected to ask, you are actually a celibate, are you not? An interfaith?
I am, yes, and it goes so well hand in hand with Green Spirit, because our version of Green Spirituality probably a bit different from traditional paganism. We're very universalist, as Steve expressed. We draw from all sources. So when I'm an interfaith minister, where I do funerals, weddings, and baby blessings, I am saying I'm welcoming people of all faiths and none. It's that divine spark in everyone that I honour, and people express it in different ways. So Green Spirituality and being an interfaith minister dovetails so beautifully together, as I know that's true for other people as well.
Indeed. Hilary, thank you so much. I was invited to take part in, I'm going to get this wrong and get shouted at in a minute, the equinox celebration from a Druid group. And do you know what? I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was such a wonderful event. That was a Zoom meeting online. And yeah, it was great. So yeah, I could relate to a lot. I did love one of your photos there. You were showing a gathering in I believe it was for the summer gathering in the garden. Very evident were a couple of bottles of wine in the forefront. So yeah, I'm definitely on board. Stephen, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I didn't know Glyn that well. I had seen Glyn demonstrate once, as we talked before. Very interesting, isn't it? Do you know what? Everybody listening now online, before we went live, we were all I was talking, everybody had to listen to me. But isn't it interesting? Because I was saying about the Lake District in Cumbria and had no idea of that connection, because I get exactly the same feel. I go up there and just go, I'm home.
He lived in Southport, so it was just a matter of through the Mersey. Is it the Mersey Tunnel? And you're there in no time, aren't you, I think?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think so.
Last time I saw the Mersey Tunnel, I'd had a few too many beers, and I woke up with a bright light and a hand leaning towards me. I was thinking I've woken up with a drag act, a boodle, but never mind. Absolutely beautiful. I know people have been thoroughly enjoying this on the site. We do have a couple of questions. Right, there we go. Lovely Sue Townsend. Is there a Green Spirit group in Dorset?
Oh.
Shall I respond to that?
Whoever, yeah.
Yep, Ashley Oliver of the Weymouth Spiritualists is thinking of starting a group. This takes time because it takes quite a bit of energy, but do contact Ashley. But if, sometimes people want to do their own group, and I'm afraid there's no other group in Dorset, but we're always willing to help and support. And you can make your group your own, because sometimes people go to another Green Spirit group and say, well, it's not quite what I want. And you could do meditations, or it could be book reviews, or it could be walks in nature, all sorts of things. So we're here to encourage you, but there is a stirring of one at the moment.
I would imagine that's one of the challenges you're going to have setting up a Green Spirit group, because because it's so eclectic and so many varied tastes and interests. We're human, we're all guilty of it. We do, oh, that's great, as long as you do so and so.
Absolutely.
And then you start getting a little bit.
Hilary,
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hilary, isn't there some material on the website that can give people ideas of starting a group?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we've got a GreenSpirit website, and we've got information pages about what's happening in the local groups, and also a couple of pages of suggestions for things that you can do in your local groups. And there's a page of things that you can do online if you're online. So, and all the rituals that we've done, we've put the PowerPoints and the meditations onto the website. So, you know, anybody that needs a little bit of a kickstart can use something that's already been designed.
There's also that little book that Debbie put together with some songs and hymns and things, isn't there?
Yes.
Which, if you're a member, you can download that for free.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. I've just put the link in the comment spot there, greenspirit.org.uk, correct?
Yep.
So the link is there, everybody, for you to copy and paste. Mr. Adams here, your standard bearer, is asking, are there any speakers booked for your annual conference?
Hilary.
This year, we are doing the annual conference. Usually we meet in a lovely conference centre somewhere, and we spend the whole weekend. Today, we're doing it on a Saturday. We've booked a speaker for an hour and a half, and then we're going to have a World Cafe, which is an opportunity to get into groups to discuss some of these issues about climate change and systems and so on. And then we're going to have our AGM. And the speaker that's booked this year is Stefan Harding, who is a scientist who's a teacher at the Schumacher College, a deep ecologist. And we've had him once before, years ago, and he talked really powerfully about climate change. So we're looking forward to hearing him again in November. But that will be on the GreenSpirit website as well, all the details.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much, Hilary. It's so comforting to hear, because I forget the title again. Was it Professor coming to speak, your speaker?
Yeah, Stefan Harding.
Dr.
Harding.
Yeah, it's so encouraging when you're starting to hear people who are eminent in their field. You know, I'm not being detrimental. If we go back to the beginning of the Gaia theory and that time, that era going on, you know, if you didn't own a pair of tie-dyed shorts and drove a Volkswagen camper, you weren't in the group, and it was as simple as that. But now it is every walk of life, and everybody is going, do you know what? We've got to do something. We've got to stop talking. Yeah, we've got to get out there and actually do things. So yeah, well done to you. Thank you. Question from America. There we go. That was Joan. She was just asking for a link from Stephen there for the book that you spoke about for Glyn that you produced. So if you could just drop us a link in the comment section, that would be wonderful. But she also just has a statement there, because it touched on a vein. We were talking with Ian when he was talking about the cosmic Christ and the integration of all the faiths. And Joan here is a fairly new to the spiritualist movement, but she really has got engrossed and involved with the online works and activities. And and she's finding that the spiritualist philosophies and understandings are underpinning and actually broadening her Catholic beliefs and upbringing. So, yeah, with an open mind, we can all learn.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you know, there are 6 titles with Glyn's name on, but what shall I do? Send them to your email and you can post them up or something, some links?
Yeah. If you could do that, if you do the titles, I'll source the suppliers and I'll put them up on links.
Yeah. Or maybe just a link to Glyn's website, which has them. But also, one of the books I did for the GreenSpirit book series was what's it called? Rivers of Green Wisdom, which actually looks at yoga and Christian teaching. It's only a small book, and as I say, it probably costs about £2 or £3 because we did it at cost price, £1 for the ebook, or free if you're a member. And that looks at Christianity and yogic green teachings as well. So it's a little bit autobiographical because I wanted to make it a slightly different flavour to other books I'd done. So I do kind of mention a bit of my own journey in it, but as it goes on, it kind of gets more into the good stuff in a way, you know.
Wonderful. Yeah, a lot of very positive comments there from people watching tonight. But yeah, going back to a little vein I touched on there, the Gaia theory. I've always been it was one of these things. When I first came across it, I was at that stage of my life, and I'm going, "Oh yeah, all right, put it to one side." But it stuck and it remained. And then with my spiritual development, and very similar actually to Stephen's recount with Glyn, that it broadens and broadens. And yeah, the earth is a living organism, and we are all part and parcel of that. And as we're seeing now, you know, I say without hesitation, before this happened, this time that we're in now, there was a big preponderancy that man was the master of everything and strode across the earth with great disdain. And yet here we are, everybody brought to their knees by the tiniest living thing that you could ever imagine. And do you know what? To me, that is one huge lesson. It's not an inconvenience, it's a lesson. And if we don't learn from this lesson, we will continue to have lessons.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's
Yes.
yeah, can't say any more. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's a worry. You know, it's come out of those who have looked into how this has come about. It's because we have been in too sort of uncaring and you know, cutting down, you know, forests and having close contact with species we wouldn't normally have been in contact with, which is causing these things. So it's about having some sensibilities, isn't it, and respecting nature instead of seeing it as a commodity, which is another big teaching within GreenSpirit.
Anyway, sorry, I'd bring the mood down. Let's bring the mood back up again. Absolutely wonderful evening. Thank you so much. If ever I can assist on the technical side by hosting either on Zoom or StreamYard any of your events going forward, please just shout. It'd be a great honour to. This has worked so well tonight. I'm really pleased with the layout. Ever so impressed by all the work that you've put in to bring your presentations together for everybody tonight. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Everybody has been watching and everybody that will watch on Catch Up or our YouTube channel. Just a few quick notices on behalf of the church side here. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, live in church and live to view only online, we have Alan Jeff Potts. Monday night at 7 p.m. we have an online meditation. Wednesday, 3 p.m., we have another service, and that is again live here in church and live to view only online. And that is with the lovely Anne Mason joining us. And then next Saturday, we have Jack Eckhart Lungland, who runs a spiritual development group and college in Denmark. So he'll be sharing his journey with us on the spiritualism and its practice in Denmark, which will be very interesting because that ties in nicely. In a couple of weeks' time, we have Marion Damper Jeans, who is a very well-known Danish medium, works an awful lot in the Baltic countries and Iceland and places, and she'll be sharing her journey with us as well. So, Hilary, Stephen, Ian, thank you so much. Do you know what? I have really... these Saturday nights are just amazing. They really are. that we can bring all these wonderful people, these different understandings, but we're all saying the same thing. How many times? Nobody's going to put this stuff in a big stone wall and set it down in front of us to read what to do. We're just being given all this information to learn from and grow from as well. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for inviting us. It's been an honour and delight to hear yourself and the others, the questions. So thank you.
Brilliant.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your making the whole evening run smoothly. And and I trust everybody out there has found something they can take away to ponder, and hopefully we've inspired them.
But I do have one very quick question I neglected. Hilary, you mentioned the silver tent. I got that. That's fine. But you did mention the red tent. As a complete and utter novice, what's a red tent?
If you Google it, you'll find out. But there are red tent groups for women all over the world, and they are for women to work together on their own development, spiritual development, and the silver tent is just for older women,
for the wiser ones.
I like to think. Wise elders.
For the wiser ladies.
Yeah.
As you can see by the comments, everybody has thoroughly enjoyed this. So once more, greatly indebted to you. Thank you. Have a blessed and peaceful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.